Hello everybody, this is Carol from Friendly Quail. I'm here with Try Something New Tuesday. And what I am making are these. They're little tiny, little tiny tags and little circles. Whoop. I'm trying to see because my camera, I want to make sure you can see it. That are little tags, and you can put thread on them like this, or this has a real skinny little jute, or this is got a bulb pin on it, and this one is just black thread. But these are what we're making. Now, I got the idea from Whichcraft Do You Do, but she was selling the digital, where it would look like this, and you would cut it out and glue it on cardboard. You still had to do the little faux eyelet on it and, you know, do all the edges, and she put paper on both sides. I'm not doing it with a digital. I'm making it right on the cardboard, and it seemed to work pretty well. And I still it's a little fiddly, but it's not, but it's kind of fun. I mean, I like doing it. It took me a while to do, but it was this is a cheaper way to do it. I'm using inks and cardstock, white cardstock, and I'm using my punch or my rotary or a cutter, and my stamps with permanent ink on it after. So the backgrounds are done with distress inks, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Now, this is kind of thin. I'm going to try a few where I glued two pieces together, but right now I'm just doing it with the single ones. Now, if you wanted to hang them off at the side of the page, you know, like on a tab or something, I think you'd need to double it up or use a heavier cardstock to begin with, which would be the easiest thing to do. But I'm working with what I have, and I had gotten a bunch of this cardstock at a thrift estate sale. So I'm glad you're here with me today. I hope you'll stay and watch how to do this. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're not, if you're one of my regulars, welcome back. So I'm happy you're here. And after I finish this and upload it, I'm going to go to a thrift store. So that's always a good thing. Now, she had on her digitals, some were kind of bluish and some were kind of brownish like that. So I'm going to do half of this in blue and half in brown, and there'll be an area where they kind of overlap, and then you get some that I have both blue and brown on, like this, and I like that too. So I'll show you what I did. Now this is weathered wood. It's a light blue, and I'm going to rub that on half of my paper. Now you notice that I get some areas that are darker, and some that are lighter. That's okay, because you want that. Actually, it makes it look kind of cool when you're making your pieces. Kind of trying to get to the edges though, and cover the whole thing. All right. And with the blue, I also used a little bit of lost shadow on it. Okay, so I added this. This is a little bit of a gray, and I added this in some spots. not all over. To give it a little bit of an added texture, color texture kind of thing. Okay. And now I'm just going to do the other side because I'm not doing a full sheet. I'm going to do this in Vintage Photo. And I'm going to go over some of that blue area as well, just on the edge. So I do like when that happens because it gives it a better look on the finished product. I'll give you an example if I can find one here. Like this has, it just looks more vintage to have the darker area in here and the lighter area. So kind of looks more rustic. Now you could use other colors. I think I'm going to try doing some with some greens. Maybe some red on it with 4 Christmas ones. And this is just walnut stain, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that on to give me some dark spots. I would like to very much get this done right to the edge. Now, the thing is, I want it to be on the back. So I'm going to turn it over, and this side was the blue. So I'm going to start over with the blue on this side. Oops, sorry about that noise. I dropped it. So this really doesn't take that long to do, because if you do her digitals, which are beautiful, I mean, if you like digitals, go ahead and do that. And but you don't have to do this, but you still have to print the digital off, and then you have to glue it onto cardboard. She cut it apart, and then she used some that were blank for the backs because she had already, the fronts have numbers and things on, the stamped things that I'm going to do later. And that actually, you know, I don't think this is any more work. And of course, I'm not in it to try to make money. I'm doing this to try to save money. Try a little bit of the Lost Shadow. All right, and I'm back to the Vintage Photo. Now, I did this kind of as almost like a mass make, I would say. So I did all the steps of one, all the steps of the other. This was from a full sheet of paper, and I got 64, 65, I don't know, something like that out of it. So when I did all of those, I was doing it for the first time, and I was learning. So now I'm going to do one other thing. I'm taking a little piece here, and I'm going to make that dark. Let's see, maybe with this ground espresso. And I'm just going to use that on here. And these are going to be for the little faux eyelets. You only have to do this on one side. Now you could do this, I think I did some in black soot, and I did, you know, I tried to make it look like it was eyelet colors, like a, what do you call that? The dark gray. Okay, but this I'm going to do the dark brown. So this will show up on either the blue or the brown. But you can do, I did more than one color. I also cut some from the scraps of this. So then I put some of the blue onto the brown, etc. So that is what I'm going to do so far. Now, I'm going to cut some off. And I want to cut about an inch. And I found it was easier to just go measure it to here. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do 1.25 inches. And I'm going to do one on the other side too. The inch is here, 1.25 inches is here. Okay, now these I'm going to cut to 1 inch. Hope this is in camera. Yeah, it's down near the bottom, but it is in camera. So I'm sliding that out to 1 inch. Of course, you can do it the opposite way too. Whatever way you cut, doesn't matter. Some I did 1 1/4 by 1, and some I did 1 1/2 by 1. And this one is a little bit big, so I'm going to slide that out. And I just got that little bit of waste, which I could use for the, oh, it's hitting up there. For the eyelets, the faux eyelets. One, okay. Now these are going to be my little tags. So I will have to cut down some of the corners. And we get that. Okay. Now we won't need this anymore. Or this. So let's get to here. Now I will cut some circles out of this. I'm using a 1 inch punch. And I'm just going to cut some circles out of that. I try to get it as close together as I can. I could have got that a little farther over. There, I did get 5 out, so I'm going to cut some out of this side. My paper started out, it was an 8.5 by 11. Now what I'm going to do is cut this off, and if I just cut it off like this, I can make some of the eyelets out of this part right here. Same thing with this. I'm going to cut some circles. So I can do 3 across. And you just do this until you've kind of made your entire, cut up your entire paper. I got enough to show you, plenty enough to show you. Okay, now I have to do these. I have to do the edges. Now you can do them with a punch, or you can just cut them off. I'm just going to cut them off, and I'm not even going to measure the other side. I'm just going to look, eyeball it. And I've got a tag shape. You can cut smaller ones. So see, these don't have as sharp of a tag shape. Okay, so these are going to be ready. Get rid of my scraps here. Okay, now I have a few of these left over from yesterday, but I'm going to show you how to do those. Now, to make the faux eyelets, because that is the next thing I did, I'm using my crocodile with the small hole, but you can use one like this too. This is an 1/8 inch. It's just that this one was easier for me. And I'm going to try to go right to the middle kind of, and I put my my part that holds it to a certain place, you know, up, adjust it. Oh, I gotta put it a little bit down. I put it too far. Adjust it so that when you're doing this, it's right about in the middle. And you're going to cut a row of little holes, leaving some space in between. Might not need quite this much space, but then you don't have things go to waste because you were too close either. And it's just paper. And I think I'm going to stop and go to the next step so you can see what the next step is. Now you can use any larger punch to do the next step. I am using this one, which you really can't see, but if I open this up, I can see where I'm cutting. So I'm going to slide this in here, and I'm going to get that circle lined up in the middle like this. See if you can see it. Can you see the little hole in there? Okay, and then I'm going to punch. Now that one didn't fall out, so then I have to get it out. So now I've got a little hole within a hole, and it's kind of punched up like this because it is, it pushes it that way up towards me when I cut it. So I get it lined up and then punch, and it pops out. Get it lined up. Before I totally punch it, I make sure it's as close to that little circle as close as it can be to the middle, and then I punch. So before I totally punch, get it lined up, and then I punch. Once in a while it doesn't fall out for me. Do a few more, because I'll make them. Okay, that one fell out. All right. May as well punch the last two that I have in here. Oh, oh my gosh, that's so loud. Sorry about that. All thumbs today. So I'm working on a few things. I'm working on that a little golden book journal. I've been making some decorations for Christmas. Need some candle things that you tie around a candle. A banner. Okay. All right, now the other thing I have to do is take this again, and I need to punch a hole in all of these. Now I'm going to move it. Let's see what's here. I got to make sure that I'm on it, not under it, where I measured. So I'm about that amount in. I'm going to punch holes in these. Trying to get kind of in the center. These you have to try to get it in the center between the edges. I didn't do that one very well with the edges. Do a couple more. Actually, I think I might cut this a little bit like this. That looks better. I should have looked at it before I made the holes. Okay, so that's what you're going to do for the next step. All right. Now, these have to get one of these glued on top. So I'm going to do put glue on a couple of them at a time, because I think I could do like about 3, and I'm just using my art glitter glue, and I'm just taking a little glue around the hole, little glue around the hole. I'm using my tweezers to pick one of these up. I'm going to get it so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Now that looks sort of like a little faux eyelet on there. I only put them on one side. All right. Get the next one. These are probably the fiddliest part that you get. And even if your little hole isn't totally in the center of the big hole, you can line the little hole up with that little hole there, and it works just fine. Put a couple more. So, got a little too much. I'm going to do 4. Nope, that one's already done. There we go. I think this color looks a little bit like the bronze eyelets. And that was espresso, ground espresso. When you first put it down, you can move it a little bit yet. So if you don't have it centered on the hole exactly right, usually I can get it to move over a little bit. Okay. And this one's starting to dry up. That's what the problem with doing too many at a time. All right. I got a couple more. For my samples here. I also did some with black soot yesterday, and also scorched timber. And now you've got this. Now I need to do some distressing, and I need to do some stamping. For stamping, I use VersaFine Clair. This is Fallen Leaves. You can also use Nocturnal, or Nocturne, I mean. And I'm going to pull out a couple of the numbers and things like that. Ooh. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. I knew I had one out. Okay, this is a Kathy Holden stamp with numbers. And I'm just going to stamp that on here. Now this is an extra step, but I didn't have to glue the fronts and backs together. So you can do a couple with the same number. I'll do a couple of numbers. Some of the bigger ones I can't use on the little circles like that. This number is too big to be used on the circles. But I do have some other numbers that are smaller that work good. Let's see this one. Here. Now you could put words on here if you wanted to. I like the numbers myself, but I had some of the bigger ones I put as found on. Okay, let's see. Have to wipe that dry a little bit. Now, since you wouldn't be using all of these in the same journal, it wouldn't matter if you have more than one with the same number. Let's see what else I can find here. These are some Tim Holtz stamps. See if that would fit on there. Yes. All right. And let's see what else. So getting out my other batches of stamps, I used a whole bunch of different ones yesterday. There we go. I also used some of Tim Holtz's tidbits, or whatever they're called. They're little tiny ones. All right. So whatever you want to use, you stamp on it. Words, numbers. Put that away over there. All right. And now I just have to distress them. So you decide what you want to distress them with. I found that I used a couple different things. I'm going to use Vintage Photo right now. And she also had to do this step, even though she had the numbers and the colors on her papers. So I will put a link to her video down below, and so you can see if you want to buy her digitals, but it's not that hard to make it your own, without buying the digitals either. She probably wouldn't be very happy I'm telling you that, but it's true. Did I do the back of this one? No. And I think those little circles, even though they're kind of fiddly to do, you know, it takes you a while to do them. I think they do look sort of like little eyelets, which again, you're doing it with paper, so it's free. And they just look like those little tags that you can buy. If you wanted, you could put another one on the back. Got to do the back of this one. Okay. May as well do the last couple. I used some scorched timber on some of my other ones that I did yesterday. I did some with vintage photos, some with scorched timber, a couple with black soot. But whatever color you want to do this with, there you go. I think making some with green and then putting red on the edges for Christmas might be cute. And that's how you make them. And then the only other thing is if you want to put a string on it. Now, you need to use kind of a small string. This is crochet cotton. It's very thin but strong. This is pearl cotton. It has pieces twisted together. So either one of those work. I will I wouldn't necessarily put the strings on until I was ready to use it, because I might want to use just a bulb pin to pin it onto something. Now, how could you use these? You could use them as dangles. You could use it on a tag. I don't have a tag here. Let me pause and I'll grab one to show you how you can use it on a tag. And you just put it on like that. I'm going to pause just a sec. Okay, I'm back. I just pulled a tag that I had out, and I'm taking my little tag here, and I'm putting it up around, whoops, I just put it around what I have tied on the top of this tag. And then I'm going to tie a knot. I went from the front to the back on both sides, so it twisted around. Should I tie it? You can tie it a little looser. It'll hang down. It depends how far down you want it to be on. But you can put it on top of a little tag, and then I would cut these off. Whoop. And it's just in a little addition to your tag. You could put it on the side. You could put it in a pocket. You could do, like I said, have it dangle off a tab on something. There's lots of things you can do with them. I think they're really cute. And I'm going to be finishing up and making the rest of these and trying some for Christmas. So I hope you enjoyed this today. And I would like to tell you that you should do something every day that makes you happy. And that is doing things you love. And that does make you happy. Okay, kind of messed that up, but yeah, whatever. I've got some things going on at home, and I'm going to tell you about them in another video. So I'll see you soon. I'll see you in my next video. This is Carol from Friendly Quill. Bye!